Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is going to be a follow-up to one I put out a couple weeks ago regarding the Sony PlayStation Classic. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys could check out that video if you haven't already. But in that video, I talked about the 5 titles that were revealed by Sony to be on this system, and since then they've revealed the other 15. So we'll go down that list here in just a second and I'll give some thoughts on it. But the 5 initial titles that were revealed were, of course, Final Fantasy VII, no surprise there. Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, again, no surprise there because I knew there was going to be at least one Tekken game on this system. And the last one was Wild Arms, which is a very good choice for that initial list. So we had 2 RPGs right out the gate there, announced for the system. And not that I was expecting a whole bunch of RPGs, but there's been more revelations. We'll go down the list here. I'll leave a link in the description below also so you guys can check out the list on GameSpot. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and go down this list. Battle Arena Toshinden. Now this is one that I kind of expected to be on here. It was one of the 2 fighting games that was released at launch for the PlayStation. Of course, it is the superior of the 2 fighting games, the other one being Street Fighter 2 the movie. So this one, I would say, yeah, you know what? Battle Arena Toshinden deserves to be on here. And again, not surprising that it is. Cool Borders 2. Okay. Now this is where we get a little bit more dicey here. While the Cool Border games were good, in my opinion, not essential. Not essential to be on this list. They really could have done without this one. It's a good game, don't get me wrong. But in my opinion, not deserving of being on this list. Next we have Destruction Derby. Another fun game from back in the day. I have very good memories of playing this game. But does it belong on this list? Is it essential? Is it one that I could see myself continuing to revisit if I were to buy this system? No. This one they could have done without it. Destruction Derby did not need to be on this list, but maybe it's because it's one of the earlier titles on the system. I'm pretty sure that probably has a lot to do with why it was chosen, but didn't need to be on here as far as I'm concerned. Final Fantasy VII, of course, we knew was going to be on this list. Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, no. Grand Theft Auto did not need to be on this list. Neither did Grand Theft Auto 2, in my opinion, of course. While I understand that the Grand Theft Auto franchise has become really one of the staples now, one of the staple franchises now in the video gaming industry, around the time that this game came out, Grand Theft Auto, the first one and the second one, it wasn't the powerhouse that it is today. And I really feel that the only reason that this was added to the list was because of the success, or I should say the later success that the franchise found on the PlayStation 2. Intelligent Cube. Not a bad game, but honestly speaking, when I look back fondly on games that I played on the PlayStation, not one of the first ones I think of. Not one of the ones I think of at all, to be quite honest. Didn't need to be on here. Jumping Flash, worthy to be on here, but one could argue that, yeah, they could have passed on this one too, but to me, this is more justified in being on this list than Intelligent Cube. Metal Gear Solid, of course, no surprise. We knew this was an essential title that needed to be on here. Mr. Driller, another fun game, does not belong on this list. Not an essential. Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee. In my video, I had stated that, of course, this was one that I could see on here, and here it is. A unique game, a fun game, somewhat of a milestone, I guess, kind of game for the PlayStation, one that is revered. Deserves to be on here. Not surprised to see it on here. Rayman. Rayman is a game that, when you look at it, of course, especially back then, if you remember the early days of the PlayStation, it really showcased a lot of the capabilities of the PlayStation, as well as, you know, it was just a really pretty game. And it was a lot of fun. It's worthy of being on this list. Is it essential? That I will leave to y'all, if y'all think it's essential to being on here. But I have no problem with Rayman being on here. It was one of the first successful games on the PlayStation that I can remember, so I'm okay with Rayman being on this list. Resident Evil Director's Cut, of course, we knew it was going to be one of the Resident Evil games, so why not it be the best version of Part 1, which was Resident Evil Director's Cut. Best version in the sense, of course, I mean that had the most stuff in it. It had that arrange mode that you can basically, which honestly is it's just the same game where you go around just finding stuff in different areas, but with a a little bit of a higher degree of difficulty. So it was cool that it gave you that option of playing Resident Evil in a way that you were not familiar with. And it also came, let us not forget, with that very nice little demo of Resident Evil 2. I'm not sure if that's going to be included in this, but I guess we'll find out. Revelations Persona. Okay, so this right here is probably going to be the biggest reason why people might potentially spend $100 on this system, or that might feel like spending $100 on the system. Now, this game alone is probably, of all the games that are listed on here, this is definitely probably the most sought after. It's the most expensive to buy individually. So it being on here, it's a great game, deserves to be on this list. But to me, this is basically the equivalent of how SNES put Earthbound on the SNES Classic. It's a game that Sony has to be aware of the fact that it has a very high resale value on the secondary market. So now they're making it accessible to people that might not want to drop all that money on it. So worthy of being on here, no problems there. Ridge Racer Type 4, of course, best of the bunch, as I said before, deserves to be on this list. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, heck of a lot of fun to play. Essential to this list, I would say no. They really, in my opinion, kind of wasted a spot with Super Puzzle Fighter 2. Siphon Filter, had a ton of fun playing this one back in the day. Worthy of being on this list, but when you think about the fact that you already have Metal Gear Solid on this list, most everybody is going to play Metal Gear Solid first. So this one is one, I'm okay with it being on here, but I would have been just as okay with it not being on here. Tekken 3. So of course we knew one of the Tekken games was going to be on the PlayStation Classic. Why not the best of the three? No problems here. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Of course, this is the one that started it all. The one on the PlayStation. Did it need to be on this list? Man, you know, good game. Good game, but questionable. Questionable whether or not it needed to be on this list. They could have probably put something else in its place. This is another one where I'm a little bit more on the fence. Really could have done without it, but they put it on here. Twisted Metal, one of the first established game series on the PlayStation. Not surprised to see one of the Twisted Metal games on here. So we knew to expect that. And of course we have Wild Arms, which again, another great game. I would say Essential is something that, of course, one could say there could have been other games they could have put in the place of Wild Arms, but I have no problem with Wild Arms being on here. I believe it deserves to be on here, and that pretty much rounds out the list. Okay, so let's talk about this list. Now, my initial reaction to seeing this list prior to making this video was I was completely underwhelmed with this list. Now, when they first announced the PlayStation Classic, I was like, okay, that's decent. When they announced the first 5 games, and I understood why they were in there, but after seeing this list, man, I mean, the only thing I see on here that justifies it, and I say that very loosely because I personally am not of the opinion that it justifies it, but might justify it to some people. The only thing that justifies a $100 price tag now is Persona. That's it. The rest of these games, while I understand people are going to say, well, look, you're getting more than $100 worth of value if you were to buy those games individually. That is true. That is true. But these are old games. These are 20-plus-year-old games. And the reason why some of these games, of course, are expensive like Persona is because of how hard it is to get. You know, it's one of those games that is not as mass-produced as, say, a Metal Gear Solid. So, of course, it's going to have a higher price tag. That's really it, though. I mean, the rest of these games feel like they're filler games. They honestly feel like games that they just put in here to check off the boxes of, okay, we need a game from this genre, we need a game from this genre, and they just put them in there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these games are bad games. They're all good games in their own right. But when I think about the PlayStation, I don't have fond when I think of fond memories of playing the PlayStation, I should say, I don't think about games like Cool Borders 2. I think of games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which should have been on this list, and it is a travesty that it is not included on here. Now, games that are worthy of being on here, of course, Abe's Oddysee, definitely worthy of being on here. Was one of the ones in my video that I had said I could see it being on here, and here it is. Unique game, no problem with that one being on here. I question games like Destruction Derby being on here though. Like, don't get me wrong, I had fun playing it back in the day, but when I think of the fondness, the games that really elicit a lot of, you know, emotion from me, that I'm just like, man, I love that game so much. Of course, I think of games like Final Fantasy VII. I think of games like Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, great choice. Of course, one of them was going to be on here. Games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Why is it not on here? Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. I had fun playing that game too back in the day. I don't think that it's essential. It just feels like a missed opportunity. I don't think that the price tag of $100 justifies it anymore. I mean, unless, again, your really biggest motivation for it is just Persona at this point. I'm really reconsidering purchasing this now. Now, I think that if they lower the price tag, maybe to 60, 80 bucks, maybe. A lot of games on here that would largely go unplayed. It's not like the SNES Classic Edition where there's tons of games on there that I will play, and there are really only a very small handful of them that I don't really care for. Not the same thing with the PlayStation Classic Mini here, unfortunately. It's the opposite, if anything. There's only really a small handful of games that I could see myself playing on here. So for that reason, I wouldn't feel justified in spending $100 on it. So, man, that's kind of disappointing. It's too bad. I feel that PlayStation really missed an opportunity here. I hope that based on people's reaction, they might reconsider the price tag on this and maybe lower it. But hey, it is what it is. I don't know what the appeal is that they're trying to get across here with this game selection. Just underwhelming. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comment section below. What do you guys think of this list? Is it kind of what you expected? Are you going to buy the PlayStation Classic? Are you reconsidering it? Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, y'all, you know how it goes. The hunt continues.